There is no story more human than the one between love, sex, and betrayal. These are not opposites, they are part of the same emotional landscape. Love asks for safety, desire thrives on mystery. Infidelity exposes both our longing for connection and our hunger for freedom. And in between these forces, the question emerges: how do we earn and keep respect, both from others and from ourselves, when everything we thought we knew about love begins to unravel? Authenticity is not simply about honesty, it is about the courage to be seen without disguise. It's the quiet confidence that comes when you no longer need to edit yourself to earn love or approval. In relationships, especially in the fragile spaces where sex, love, and infidelity meet, authenticity becomes both the anchor and the compass. It anchors you in who you are, and it guides you toward deeper connection. When you dare to show up as your full self, with your fears, your desires, and your contradictions, you invite respect not through perfection, but through presence. People are drawn to those who live truthfully because authenticity radiates trust. It says, "I am real, and therefore, you can be too." Many of us grow up believing that to be loved, we must be agreeable, attractive, or impressive. We become skilled at performing the version of ourselves we think others will accept. But in doing so, we trade authenticity for approval, and the cost is intimacy. Because love cannot touch what is hidden. When we mask our true feelings, pretend to be unbothered, or silence our needs, we may maintain peace, but it is a peace built on distance. Authenticity, on the other hand, invites discomfort. It requires vulnerability. It means saying, "This is what I feel," even when it risks rejection. And yet, that raw honesty is what makes us respectable. It's what allows others to trust that we are not pretending, not manipulating, not performing. In the realm of desire, authenticity is even more powerful. Nothing is more magnetic than someone who is comfortable in their truth. The person who can own their desires without shame, who can say what they want and what they fear losing, creates a space for real eroticism to emerge. Because desire does not thrive in performance, it thrives in truth. When we are authentic, we stop trying to please and start trying to connect. That shift changes everything. It transforms sex from an act of validation into an act of expression. It turns love from obligation into choice. In the aftermath of infidelity, authenticity becomes the foundation for rebuilding respect. It means telling the truth, not just about what happened, but about why it happened. It means facing the parts of yourself that you've denied or disowned, the parts that acted out of loneliness, fear, or hunger for recognition. When two people commit to that level of honesty, healing becomes possible. Respect, in this sense, is not something you demand from your partner, it's something you inspire by showing up authentically. Because to be authentic is to be brave, and bravery always commands respect. Emotional maturity is the quiet force that transforms love from chaos into connection. It is not about suppressing feelings or pretending to be unaffected, it is about learning to respond instead of react. In relationships, emotions can be wild, unpredictable, and sometimes destructive, but emotional maturity gives those emotions direction. It allows you to express what you feel without weaponizing it, to listen without needing to defend, and to stay present even when your heart feels raw. People respect those who can hold emotional space without losing themselves in it, because it shows strength rooted in awareness rather than control. Emotional maturity doesn't mean you never get angry or hurt, it means you can acknowledge those emotions without letting them dictate your behavior. It is the ability to hold two truths at once: I am upset and I still care. That balance is what creates safety in love. When a relationship encounters betrayal or disappointment, emotional immaturity often pushes us toward blame, silence, or withdrawal. We want to punish or protect ourselves rather than understand. Emotional maturity, however, invites curiosity instead of accusation. It asks, "What is this emotion trying to tell me?" rather than, "Who is to blame?" This shift from reaction to reflection changes everything. It creates the kind of respect that is not earned through fear, but through integrity. When you can communicate your pain without destroying trust, you show emotional intelligence. When you can admit your mistakes without collapsing into shame, you show emotional resilience. These are the moments that deepen respect between partners, because they reveal not just what you feel, but how responsibly you handle what you feel. Emotional maturity is also deeply erotic, because it allows for tension without panic. Desire often lives in contradiction. Love wants closeness, desire needs distance. Without maturity, these differences become battles. With it, they become play. A mature lover knows that conflict is not the end of connection but an opportunity to grow closer. They can stay grounded when emotions flare, turning friction into understanding rather than resentment. That steadiness is magnetic. It inspires trust and admiration. People naturally respect those who can remain soft without being fragile, firm without being cold. In the context of infidelity, emotional maturity is what determines whether a relationship breaks or transforms. It requires both partners to tolerate uncomfortable truths without turning away. It's the strength to feel hurt without revenge, to seek clarity without cruelty, to rebuild without erasing the past. Emotional maturity gives us the language to repair what was broken and the compassion to see beyond the wound. It is the bridge between pain and wisdom, between reaction and response, between love that demands and love that understands. Boundaries are not barriers, they are the invisible lines that give love its structure and shape. They are the quiet declarations of self-respect that say, "This is who I am, this is what I need, and this is what I cannot accept." In relationships, boundaries often carry a negative connotation, as if they are restrictions that kill intimacy, but in truth, they are what allow intimacy to breathe. Without them, love suffocates under the weight of confusion and resentment. Boundaries create the space where desire and respect coexist, where individuality is honored even within togetherness. They teach others how to treat us, not through control or demand, but through clarity and consistency. When we set a boundary, we are not shutting someone out, we are inviting them to meet us in a place where both can be safe and seen. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. They worry that saying no will make them unlovable or selfish. But the absence of boundaries doesn't create love, it creates exhaustion. When we keep giving beyond our limits, resentment builds quietly, eroding both respect and connection. Boundaries are not walls of distance, they are doors with clear frames. They tell others where they can enter and how to do so without causing harm. When you uphold your limits with calm and kindness, you communicate something powerful, that you value yourself enough to be truthful, and that you trust the relationship enough to withstand honesty. This kind of strength commands respect far more than compliance ever could. In the landscape of sex and love, boundaries become the compass of authenticity. They define what feels safe, what feels exciting, and what feels sacred. They ensure that desire is mutual, not coerced, that love is chosen, not owed. When both partners understand and honor each other's boundaries, it deepens the intimacy rather than diminishing it. It creates a rhythm of giving and receiving that feels sustainable, not sacrificial. Boundaries remind us that we are two individuals sharing connection, not two halves completing each other. This distinction preserves respect, because it acknowledges that love is a choice renewed daily, not a possession to be maintained. In the aftermath of infidelity, boundaries are what rebuild trust. They provide the framework for healing, for accountability, for emotional safety. Re-establishing boundaries is not about punishment, it's about protection, protecting what is fragile, sacred, and worth rebuilding. They help define new agreements, new forms of honesty, new levels of transparency. When both partners can uphold these boundaries, they transform pain into structure, chaos into clarity. Boundaries are not the end of intimacy, they are the beginning of love that is rooted in mutual respect, not dependency. Curiosity is the lifeblood of lasting connection, the gentle spark that keeps love from turning into routine. It is the willingness to look at your partner not as someone you already know, but as someone who is still unfolding. When we stop being curious, we stop seeing. We assume we already understand everything about the person we love, and in that assumption, desire quietly fades. Curiosity keeps respect alive because it honors the mystery in the other. It says, "I am still interested in who you are becoming." It keeps love dynamic, alive, and responsive to change. In the dance between sex, love, and infidelity, curiosity is what transforms judgment into understanding. It opens the door to empathy, making room for both your truth and theirs to exist side by side. In long-term relationships, familiarity often replaces fascination. We stop asking questions, stop paying attention, stop noticing the small evolutions that occur within each other. The problem isn't that love disappears, it's that curiosity does. When we no longer wonder, we no longer listen deeply. Curiosity is not about prying or control, it's about presence. It's about the desire to learn, to explore, to stay engaged with your partner's inner world. It's an act of humility to say, there is still more for me to learn about you, even after years together. This kind of curiosity is not just intellectual, it is erotic. It keeps the relationship from stagnating, because desire needs discovery to survive. Curiosity also creates a bridge between conflict and connection. When hurt or betrayal occurs, our first instinct is often to close off, to protect ourselves by judging or blaming. But curiosity asks, what led us here? It invites exploration instead of accusation. That doesn't mean excusing betrayal or overlooking pain, it means choosing understanding over punishment. When both partners stay curious, they create the conditions for healing, for growth, for renewed respect. To be curious in moments of tension is to believe that the other is still worth understanding, that the relationship is still worth exploring. In intimacy, curiosity invites playfulness and risk. It challenges us to keep discovering new sides of ourselves and our partners. It makes space for imagination, for fantasy, for conversations that go beyond the practical into the emotional and sensual. When curiosity is alive, love feels expansive rather than confining. It turns familiarity into fascination, repetition into revelation. Curiosity keeps us awake in our relationships, it prevents us from taking love for granted. It allows respect to grow, not from duty, but from continuous discovery. Because the moment we stop being curious, we stop truly seeing each other, and where there is no discovery, there can be no desire. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood acts in love. Many believe it means forgetting, excusing, or minimizing the pain caused, but forgiveness is not about erasing the wound, it is about reclaiming power from it. It is the moment when you choose peace over punishment, when you decide that holding on to resentment no longer serves your growth. Forgiveness does not mean what happened was acceptable, it means you refuse to let it define you. In relationships marked by love, betrayal, or loss, forgiveness becomes the quiet strength that allows respect to re-enter the space. It takes immense courage to forgive because it requires vulnerability, it asks you to face pain with open eyes instead of hiding behind anger. When betrayal occurs, whether emotional or physical, the instinct is to protect yourself by hardening your heart. Anger feels safer than sorrow, distance feels safer than confrontation. But forgiveness demands emotional maturity, it calls you to move beyond reaction and into reflection. It asks, what am I willing to release so I can be free? This is not about the other person, it's about you. To forgive is to choose freedom over fixation. It is to acknowledge the hurt without letting it become your identity. The act of forgiveness becomes an internal revolution, a declaration that you will not let pain dictate your capacity for love. In the complex world of sex, love, and infidelity, forgiveness is what transforms pain into wisdom. It does not rebuild trust overnight, but it opens the door for trust to be rebuilt. It invites understanding where blame once lived. It creates the emotional space for empathy, even when the relationship itself cannot continue. Forgiveness allows you to look at the one who hurt you and see not a villain, but a flawed human being, someone capable of failure, just as you are. This does not mean condoning the betrayal, it means releasing the grip of bitterness that keeps you tied to it. Forgiveness liberates both the forgiver and the forgiven, restoring a sense of dignity to the relationship, even if its form must change. Forgiveness also mirrors strength, not weakness. It requires the ability to hold complexity, to feel pain and compassion at the same time. It is not a single act but a process, unfolding slowly, with setbacks and small victories. Through forgiveness, you reclaim your emotional autonomy. You begin to see that healing does not depend on another's remorse, but on your own readiness to let go. It teaches you that love is not just about passion and connection, but about resilience and grace. In choosing forgiveness, you choose growth over grievance, freedom over fear, and in that choice, you honor both your humanity and your self-respect. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, Yet it is the foundation upon which true intimacy and respect are built. It is the courage to be open, to reveal your inner world without guarantees of understanding or acceptance. In love, especially when touched by infidelity or emotional distance, vulnerability becomes the bridge that reconnects what pain has divided. It is not about confessing everything or seeking pity, it is about showing up honestly, saying, "This is who I am, this is what I feel, and this is what I need." Vulnerability is the language of truth, and truth is what love requires to survive. When you allow yourself to be seen in your rawness, not polished, not perfect, you invite real connection. People respect vulnerability because it reflects strength, not fragility. It takes far more courage to be open than to hide behind defense or pride. We live in a culture that glorifies independence and control, where showing emotion is often equated with losing power. But the opposite is true. Emotional walls may protect you from rejection, but they also prevent you from being fully loved. When you hide your insecurities, your fears, or your desires, you may appear strong, but you remain unseen. Vulnerability allows intimacy to exist because it invites empathy. It gives your partner access to the truth of your inner world. It says, "I trust you enough to let you in." That trust, once offered, becomes the foundation of respect. When someone can be vulnerable with grace, they communicate integrity and authenticity, qualities that command quiet admiration. In the aftermath of betrayal, vulnerability is often the hardest act to choose. It feels counterintuitive to open your heart after it has been broken. Yet healing requires it. To rebuild love, you must risk being honest again, even when you fear being hurt. Vulnerability allows the difficult conversations to happen, the ones that explore the pain, the fear, the longing for safety. Without it, forgiveness becomes mechanical and intimacy hollow. Vulnerability gives both partners the courage to face what is unresolved, to ask for what they need, and to listen without defense. It creates a space where respect is renewed not because everything is fixed, but because both people are willing to be real. Vulnerability also nurtures desire. Desire thrives on aliveness, and nothing is more alive than the truth of our emotions. When you can express what you long for without shame, you reclaim your erotic self. You stop performing and start connecting. Vulnerability, then, becomes not just emotional but sensual. It keeps love human, grounded, and alive. It reminds us that respect does not come from perfection, but from the courage to show our truth, even when it trembles on our lips. Communication is the heartbeat of every relationship, the invisible thread that holds love, trust, and respect together. It is not just about the words we speak, but the meaning beneath them, the tone, the silence, the timing, and the intention. In relationships, especially those scarred by betrayal or misunderstanding, communication becomes either the bridge to healing or the wall that divides. True communication requires more than talking. It demands listening, empathy, and the willingness to understand rather than win. It is the art of revealing yourself without accusation and receiving the other without defense. When communication is honest and compassionate, it transforms conflict into connection and distance into understanding. People respect those who can communicate truthfully without cruelty, who can express emotions with clarity rather than chaos. It is through communication that respect becomes tangible, that love finds language. So often, we think communication means convincing the other to see things our way. But in reality, it is about curiosity, not control. It asks, "What is it like to be you right now?" instead of "How can I make you agree with me?" When two people speak from curiosity rather than ego, respect naturally grows. This kind of dialogue is not always easy. It requires vulnerability, patience, and restraint. It asks us to stay present even when we feel misunderstood. It teaches us to listen, not to reply, but to truly hear. Because when someone feels heard, they feel respected, and where respect lives, love can survive almost anything. In moments of conflict, communication becomes the test of maturity. It reveals whether we fight to be right or to be understood. Emotional reactions are inevitable, but communication allows us to express them without destruction. Saying "I feel hurt" instead of "you hurt me" changes the entire conversation. It shifts the focus from blame to awareness, from defense to dialogue. This shift is where intimacy deepens. When couples can speak truthfully without wounding each other, they create emotional safety, the kind of safety that allows passion to thrive. In the shadow of infidelity, communication is often the only path forward. It rebuilds trust not through promises, but through transparency. It means telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable, asking questions even when the answers might sting. It's choosing honesty over avoidance, clarity over comfort. Every word becomes an act of rebuilding, every silence an opportunity for presence. Through open and compassionate communication, wounds can become wisdom, and relationships can be reborn. Because when love finds its voice, respect follows quietly behind, turning pain into understanding and distance into closeness. Trust is the quiet foundation upon which every relationship stands, the invisible current that allows love to flow freely. It is fragile, sacred, and once broken, it takes time and intention to rebuild. Trust is not built through grand gestures but through the accumulation of small, consistent acts that say, "You are safe with me." It is the confidence that your partner will honor not only your presence but also your absence, that they will protect what you share even when you are not there. Trust is what turns vulnerability into connection and intimacy into safety. Without it, love becomes anxious, and desire turns defensive. Trust is not blind faith, it is earned through truth, reliability, and emotional transparency. It is a living, breathing agreement between two people to show up honestly and consistently. The beauty of trust is that it deepens through imperfection. It is not sustained by never making mistakes, but by the willingness to own them. When someone admits a failure with sincerity and accountability, trust is strengthened, not weakened. It tells the other person, "You can rely on my honesty, even when it's uncomfortable." This kind of honesty creates respect, because it values truth over ego. Trust thrives in clarity, it suffocates in secrecy. The moment lies or half-truths enter a relationship, they begin to erode the foundation that intimacy depends on. In the delicate balance of sex, love, and infidelity, trust is the compass that determines whether a relationship breaks or transforms. Betrayal tests it, but it can also renew it if both people are willing to face the truth and rebuild slowly, with patience and humility. Rebuilding trust after infidelity requires more than apologies, it requires consistency. It's about actions aligning with words, about showing reliability where there was once doubt. The one who betrayed must become transparent, not to be monitored, but to rebuild safety. The one who was betrayed must learn to trust again, not blindly, but consciously. It is a gradual process, full of uncertainty and courage. Each moment of honesty becomes a brick in the reconstruction of faith. It takes emotional maturity to keep choosing trust when fear tempts you to close off. Yet, without that choice, love remains in the shadow of suspicion. Trust also lives within the self. To trust another, you must first trust your own instincts, your own worth, your ability to survive disappointment. When you know you can rely on yourself, you no longer need to control others to feel safe. This inner trust radiates outward, it allows love to exist without fear, without possession. Trust, then, is not just the foundation of respect, it is the essence of freedom within intimacy. It allows love to breathe without chains, to deepen without fear, and to endure even through imperfection. Self-awareness is the mirror through which love becomes conscious. It is the understanding of your inner world, your emotions, patterns, fears, and desires, and how they shape the way you love, fight, and connect. Without self-awareness, relationships become a projection of our unhealed parts. We start blaming our partners for wounds that were never theirs to carry. But when you begin to see yourself clearly, you stop reacting out of old stories and start responding with presence. Self-awareness allows you to pause before speaking, to reflect before accusing, to understand what is truly being triggered within you. It transforms relationships from a battlefield of egos into a meeting place of souls. People respect those who know themselves, because that self-knowledge brings stability, accountability, and emotional intelligence. In love, self-awareness is the difference between reacting and relating. It asks you to look inward, to notice not just what your partner did, but how it made you feel and why. It's the courage to admit, "This hurt me not just because of what happened, but because it touched an old fear." When you can name your feelings instead of acting them out, You bring maturity into love. This awareness prevents emotional chaos. It turns confrontation into conversation. It also teaches humility, recognizing that you, too, have blind spots and limitations. Self-awareness reminds you that your perception is only part of the story, not the entire truth. It creates space for empathy because when you understand your own complexity, you can hold compassion for someone else's. In the context of infidelity, self-awareness becomes a compass for healing. It requires both partners to ask difficult questions. Why did this happen? What was missing? What parts of ourselves did we lose or neglect? These questions are not about blame, they are about understanding the deeper layers beneath the betrayal. For the one who strayed, self-awareness means confronting their unmet needs, fears, or impulses without hiding behind excuses. For the one who was hurt, it means examining the pain without letting it harden into permanent mistrust. Through self-awareness, both can begin to rebuild from truth rather than illusion. Self-awareness also nourishes desire. When you are connected to your own emotions and body, you bring authenticity into intimacy. You know what you want, and you can express it without shame. This openness creates deeper erotic and emotional connection because it comes from clarity, not confusion. The more you understand yourself, the more you can meet your partner without projection or pretense. Love thrives when both people can see themselves honestly and meet each other from that place of awareness. Respect, then, becomes the natural outcome of two self-aware people who take responsibility for their feelings, their choices, and the energy they bring into the relationship. Acceptance is the quiet wisdom that allows love to mature. It is the ability to see another person as they truly are, without trying to mold them into your expectations or fantasies. In the beginning of love, we often fall for potential, the version of someone we hope they will become. But true intimacy begins when we fall in love with reality. Acceptance is not resignation, it is the recognition that imperfection is part of being human. It is saying, I see you, your flaws, your fears, your contradictions, and I choose to stay present. This kind of love does not seek to fix but to understand. It replaces control with compassion and conditions with curiosity. Acceptance creates an atmosphere of emotional safety, where both partners can exist without fear of judgment or rejection. That safety is the foundation of respect, because it honors the individuality of the other. In relationships, many conflicts arise not because people are incompatible, but because they cannot accept differences. We want our partners to think, feel, and act like us, believing that sameness equals harmony. But respect grows in diversity, not in sameness. Acceptance invites us to hold space for contrast, to love someone even when their rhythm differs from ours. It means understanding that we all love differently, express differently, and heal differently. When you accept someone, you make room for their authenticity. You stop asking them to fit into your script and start listening to their truth. That shift transforms love from expectation into appreciation. In the aftermath of infidelity or betrayal, acceptance becomes an even deeper act of courage. It means acknowledging what happened without denial, seeing the pain for what it is, and still choosing to face forward. Acceptance does not mean forgetting, it means refusing to stay trapped in resentment. It allows both partners to take responsibility for choices made, for needs ignored, for truths unspoken. When you accept the reality of what is, you create space for healing to begin. It is only from truth that renewal can grow. Acceptance turns pain into wisdom because it teaches that control cannot protect us from heartbreak, but presence can help us recover from it. Acceptance also strengthens self-respect. It means embracing your own story, the mistakes, the lessons, the parts of yourself that are still learning. When you can accept yourself fully, you stop demanding perfection from others. You start loving from freedom, not fear. Acceptance is the point at which love becomes real, no longer a fantasy or ideal, but a living, breathing connection between two imperfect people choosing each other again and again, not despite their flaws, but because they are human.